Good morning. My name is Sheriff Troy Nails, N-E-H-L-S, Sheriff of Fort Bend County. I want to thank you for being here this morning. Back on February 14th, 1986, 32 years ago, Mary Lou was brutally murdered in her home outside of Sugar Land of Fort Bend County. About 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to meet her mother, Maria, as well as other family members. With me is Mary Lou's brother, Louis, and sister Diana. But when Louis brought Maria, Mary Lou's mother, into my office, she was holding this photo. And she sat on my couch, and she said to me, looking in my eyes, "Sheriff, I look at this picture every day. Every day I see this picture. And now I want you to have it so you can see it every day and know what I've been dealing with for the past 30 years. Help find the individual or individuals responsible in the murder of my beautiful daughter." And so today, it's 32 years, Valentine's Day, and we still have not been able to apprehend anyone in this case. We have leads. We have suspects, but we're still not there yet. Each and every year, each and every day in Fort Bend County, we are doing everything we possibly can to put closure to this case. In Fort Bend County, 56 cold cases. Dating back to the mid-'60s, there are 56 cold cases in Fort Bend County, with 39 of those involving homicide. Others may be bodies that we have discovered in Fort Bend County and not have yet been able to identify those. And each and every one of the 56 are important. We're spotlighting this case and showcasing this one today because it took place on February 14th, today, 32 years ago. You know what's sad about this, too, is her beautiful mother, Maria. It was her birthday. Now, she's up there in the mid-'80s in a retirement home here in Fort Bend County. But I am going to do everything in my power, as well as the detectives working this, and agencies, other agencies, Department of Public Safety, Texas Rangers, and others, to help bring closure to this case. But I am telling you, we need support, we need help from the people watching. If you know anything regarding this case, we ask for your support and we ask for your help, and please contact us. I know there's Louis, and maybe even Diana wanted to say a few things. And Louis, we're here for you, sir.
Our lives have been completely changed. For 32 years, we've been waiting for some justice for Mary Lou, or her voice today. It's very difficult. My mother is very sick. My father's passed away. We've been waiting a long time. There's been a lot of detectives that have worked on this case for many years. Brad Witchard, T.C. Jones, Mark Herman, great detectives. They've treated us very well. We have some new fresh eyes on this case, and we're hoping and praying that someone has some leads out there that can bring closure for us and for my mother. And I want to thank the sheriff of Fort Bend County, Troy Nails, for helping us with this case. I think my sister would like to say something.
I want to first say thank you to the sheriff and to Crime Stoppers for bringing attention to my sister's case again. It has been very difficult to live this nightmare, is what I would say. You hear this on the news all the time, that people get murdered, people die, people get killed, but you never expect for yourself to be in that place or that it could even happen to you. We were just a normal family, living our life, working hard. I received a call from my mother that day, just ecstatic, screaming through the phone that something had happened to my sister, who was her firstborn child. And if any of you are parents, you know that the firstborn is always special. They were a lot alike, and they did a lot of things together. They had a close friendship. And that day changed our lives forever. And I know that there's somebody out there that knows what happened. It was early in the morning. Someone had to have seen something, heard something, and I know people don't want to get involved because you're scared. I would be too. But at the same time, if, like the sheriff said, if you can see my mother's face each year when we try to celebrate a holiday, and especially her birthday, it's hard, knowing that the person who's responsible for this is living their life, enjoying things, and not giving a second thought to what they did to our family. My father was the rock of our family, and if I wish he were here today because he would know what to do. I had to become the rock for my mother when he passed on, and it was very difficult to come with her to the sheriff's department, who worked very, very hard at the beginning to find out who was responsible. I got to a point where the interviews were more than I could bear to watch her go through, and I refused to come with her anymore because I felt like the sheriff and the detectives were doing their job, and that we would have to just find peace in knowing that one day there would be closure for us. Never expected it to be this long. My mother would like to be here today but can't. I went and visited with her before I came today and asked her what she would want to say if she were here, and it was very hard, but she wanted to know that more than anything, this is the most important thing in her life, is to find out who's responsible for taking Mary Lou from her and our family. If she could be here, she would, but she can't, and she just hopes that this will get out in the community and that somebody will come forward so that before she goes to heaven, she can have some closure for my sister.
¿Alguien puede decirlo en español, por favor?
We'll do that after.
Yes, I would be happy
done
to
after.
later.
Thank you.
We have a recording of my mother on the phone that I would like y'all to hear.
It would be very hard to
Would
hear
y'all
it.
I think it would be
Yes.
great for them to hear that and get the phone down.
Do-
Yes, yes, sir.
That due to my ill health, I cannot be there to ask for the most important thing, justice for my daughter Mary Lou. It's been 32 years, and we're still patiently waiting and hope that soon after this day will the case be solved.
You have our attention.
Thank you.
Tell Mom you have our attention, and I'll make it a point to go up and visit
Appreciate it.
Mom and let her know what we're doing with the case. We'll open it up to a few questions. If you're going to ask questions involving what are we doing today and want specifics in this case, I'm not going to share them with you. I'm not going to jeopardize some of the activities, some of the actions that we've taken here over the past few years to try to put closure in this case. But go ahead.
Sheriff, can you just explain what the difficulties have been over the years when it comes to cracking this case?
Well, it's 32 years ago. I was relatively a pup at that time. I graduated from high school in 1986. The point is I've been here now for 4.5, 5 years, and we have gone and we're looking at all the different cold cases. This one here is near and dear to my heart because I've had a family here, and when Mary Lou's mother, Maria, walked into my office a few years back with that picture, that has stuck with me ever since. So we treat every case the same. We have obviously something 32 years ago, and I told you we're dealing with cases back in the early 60s. With the new DNA and the technology we have, we're sending a lot of information, a lot of evidence back to the crime lab in Houston, the Department of Public Safety's crime lab, to have this evidence examined for a second or third time.
Have you ever previously, Sheriff, identified a suspect, and if so, what has precluded an arrest?
Well, of course, you know, they were talking. Obviously, she was married to a gentleman, Stephen Jerry, who resides in the state of Texas. Our investigators have reached out to him and talked to him. We have received DNA from him, and he really has been, up to this point, cooperating with us in this investigation.
He volunteered that DNA?
He did. That he did.
Are you still calling him a person of interest?
Yes.
Would you call him a suspect?
I don't know. He may have had, if he didn't do it himself, he may know or have had something to do with it. We're still, I don't want to get into the specifics, but I believe he's a gentleman that we have made contact with over the past several years, and we will continue to look at him.
Would you mind just going over the basics of what happened that day?
I would like to introduce you to Lieutenant Brad Wichard, who is over all of our different cold cases. His father was the lieutenant of criminal investigations 32 years ago when this took place. But Detective Lieutenant Wichard, is the one that is overseeing this investigation. So, Brad, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, the general synopsis is, as in the release, the morning, it was around 9:30, 9:45, Valentine's Day, back in 1986. Mary Lou's mother had traveled to their home, the Jerry's home, in the Teal Briar subdivision, which is a development located just north of the Sugar Land Airport. And she was going there to help prepare for a party. They were about to have a celebration, a combined celebration of Valentine's Day, and actually Mary Lou's mother's own birthday, which happens to be on Valentine's Day. So this date means something a lot to the Serrato family. But when, unfortunately and tragically, when Mary Lou's mother arrived, she discovered that Mary Lou had been shot multiple times.
Can you say, Lieutenant, if you've identified the husband as a suspect?
I can say we've identified multiple people in this case that had access to the home or to the property. And at this time, everyone remains a suspect. Everyone remains a person of interest. We won't have the final answer until we have the final answer, and that's why we're here today.
Were you able to validate his alibis?
As far as alibis, without going into specifics of the case, I would not be able to respond to that.
What about this claim that a bunch of jewelry is stolen and other things? Have you proven that something was taken?
Again, I don't want to get into the specifics of the case. I will speak generally that there were reports that a few items were unaccounted for. Have we been able to verify that those were in fact stolen from the home or not? No, I wouldn't go that far. Sure.
Is there anything else? Anything else, Lewis or Diane?
Could we ask a few more questions of the family?
Sure. Please.
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you talk some, from your perspective, just about coping with this for 32 years?
Been pretty tough. Watching my father come up here when Milton Wright was the sheriff. They'd come up here and they would leave with the same stories. We're working on it. My dad's gone now. He's been gone a long time, so he's not going to see justice. My mother's pretty close to passing away. That morning was tough. It's like being in a dream, arriving and seeing my sister laying there at the hospital. And I'll get into a little bit about Stephen G. Rye. He was there, complained that he was having heart problems or issues with his heart or having a heart attack. He left with us that day and went home with us to my parents' house and stayed upstairs. No one spoke to him at all, period. That bothers me. His hands weren't bagged. Well, you go over things every day in your mind. I have a brother who was a police officer at that time with the Harris County Sheriff's Office. It was very difficult for him. He's in Plano now. He's a U.S. Marshal. It's been tough on Diana, my other sister, Christina. I don't want to say a lot of things that could jeopardize the case. But in my heart, Stephen G. Rye has not come forward to try to find out anything about what happened to Mary Lou that day at all, period. Even at the funeral, it was crazy. The eulogy was horrible. So if you look back in the archives, I'm sure you'll find some stuff. That's what I believe, you know, that it's been tough. I wish I could say more. But hopefully the sheriff's office will get something done soon. I appreciate, you asking that question. I don't know if Dinah wants to say anything else. Do you want to say anything else?
I would just like to add that your question regarding things that were taken from the house, I can firmly say that this was not a robbery. My sister was murdered by someone, and it was very well planned.
My sister knew who killed her. My sister would have never opened the door for anybody that morning. And she ran, supposedly they said she was at the front door that morning. But Stephen was the last person to leave that house that morning. But she ran in a different direction from that door. She had a pistol in her purse in the kitchen. Why would she run in a different direction? People do weird things when they're scared. Who knows? But I don't believe for one bit that my sister was taken by somebody at the front door. I think my sister was murdered early in the morning, was planned, staged, and then that person disappeared that morning to do his alibis. And y'all can take it from there.
There was some suit that was settled.
A wrongful lawsuit. My dad did that for him not to be able to get in control of the monies. And then there were several people that came out of the woodwork. My dad hired a private eye. Clyde Wilson was a famous detective.
And Bill Elliott.
And they, I can't tell you, all I know is they believe what I'm telling you, that happened inside that home that day.
There was a gag order placed on the settlement.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was a 2-year gag. I don't even know if it's still there or if it's even able to be talked about. It's something that we did not talk about.
We respected.
My parents did not want to settle, but if anyone is familiar with the court systems and judges and laws, certain things are allowed into evidence and certain things aren't. And when that is thrown at you by attorneys who are the ones who are going to benefit, they paint a picture that you might think is the right thing to do. I know that the most important thing to my parents that day was that when we visit the cemetery, and this is through the settlement, the marker on her grave, or where she is, it's beautiful and sketched with shells because she loved the beach and she loved shells. It reads Mary Lou Serrato and not Mary Lou G. Rye. And that is worth everything. I read a comment at one time on Facebook, and people can be ugly, and said that sex and money, or that it was about the money. My parents and my family are not about money. We have never been that way. We've worked hard for everything that we have. And unfortunately, this happened to my sister.
Can you say, as part of this civil suit and in the settlement, if her husband admitted any involvement to anything.
I cannot say that.
We can't say that. But there was a lot of people there looking for him for money, I'll tell you that, at the courthouse.
He paid you out something, I imagine, as part of it?
He didn't pay us anything, he
The
paid family, my parents,
My parents had spent a lot of money
on
on
lawyers
lawyers.
to keep him
detectives.
from getting that money. That was the whole reason to kill Mary Lou was for money. That's all it was about, just to kill Mary Lou for the money.
And the hope was the civil suit would bring more evidence to the sheriff's department for them to be able to have an arrest and an indictment against him for the murder. But unfortunately, things didn't work out that way.
At that time, Stephen was not doing very well with his company either, and their house was fixing to be foreclosed on, cars, everything. He wasn't financially stable at that time. So if anybody had anything to benefit from anything, it's right there, it's written.
I don't want to continue this on and on and on because we could go on forever and ever, but I do want to say that we've lived in Houston our whole lives, and anybody who knew our family and grew up with my sister Mary Lou from the time that we were young to old know our family and know her and know what a kind person she is and was, and that the things that we're going to hear we're going to ignore because we know who we are and who our family is and what we represent.
My father was a great guy. He worked very hard. He worked for Dr. DeBecky and Danton Cooley. My dad was the very first person to build an artificial heart in a human being. And he cared a lot about Mary Lou, cared a lot about our family. Yeah, it's just tough. I'm gonna let it go.
Let's go.
Thank you guys for coming out today. I hope y'all can help us.
Thank you for being here.